Hello, welcome to the Autonomy AMA, or Ask Me Anything. We're broadcasting live from Seattle. My name is Grant Fjermedal. I'll be the host. I'm a longtime tech writer. I wrote a book about the future of artificial intelligence and robotics called The Tomorrow Makers a few years ago. Recently, I've developed a keen interest in blockchain technology, and I'm delighted to be talking today with the founder and CEO of Autonomy, Vaughan Emery. Hi, Vaughan.
Hey, Grant. It's great to be here. Looking
Cool.
forward to this.
Hey, to get things started, we've got a bunch of questions here, but to get things started, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, Autonomy, how the heck you became interested in IoT security?
Love to. Kind of introduce myself to our community. I'm thrilled to be able to talk to you guys for the first time. There'll be a bunch of these on the horizon, so stay tuned. I've been in tech for 15 years. 8 years ago, I started a cybersecurity company by the name of Sentry Technology. Our focus was on the Internet of Things and how to protect the data for IoT. Recently, we launched the Autonomy project. It's around identity and reputation, the idea that in the connected world, devices need to be known and trusted. We think that blockchain is the perfect platform by which we can create immutable identity. We can decentralize the attack vector for cybersecurity. That's an important aspect. And we get to be able to see kind of how devices behave through that historical ledger, so we can establish baseline. And again, thrilled to be able to be here and talk about that with you.
Cool, cool. Hey, I've got a bunch of technical questions we're going to get to, but first of all, this probably won't be a surprise to you. We're getting a lot of questions here about the ICO. People want to know when's it going to happen.
Lots of activity there.
Yeah. So what can you, I know there's certain things you can't say about it, but what can you say?
I'm on Telegram, and I'm out there, I'm active, I'm seeing the questions, and our admins are really great at bringing the questions to the core team. We haven't announced our public sell. We haven't announced the date of the whitelist, but that's on the horizon, right? So stay tuned. What we've really been doing, the team has been focused on building the platform, and I'm thrilled to be able to announce today that we're launching the platform on May 15. It'll have full functionality. As many of you have read the white paper, you kind of know what our vision is. The ability to take a device and register it on blockchain to create the immutable identity, starting with the concept of known trusted, moving on to the ability to activate a device as an owner, either a consumer setting or an industrial setting, be able to validate the device ID through marketplace transactions, and a device goes through its life cycle, building a reputation. We think those are the core pillars of autonomy. And I'm thrilled to be able to let everybody know. May 15, we'll begin posting our code to our Github. We'll launch the platform on Amazon Web Services, and we're thrilled to be able to do that.
Awesome, awesome. And just one more related question, very close to ICO. People are also asking about whitelist. Will there be a whitelist? People want to know how they can get on. Watch Telegram or what? Yep,
definitely stay tuned to whitelist. And for those that aren't sure what our process here is, we're going to open that up at some point in the near future. We'll take as many participants in that whitelist as we can. Prior to a public sell, we're going to figure out the most fair way to involve whitelist participants. Many of you I've talked to, and we kind of understand what's going on. We're trying to be as transparent and as fair to the community as possible. A lot of the crypto businesses and a lot of the ICOs may not have been as fair as we're trying to be, and we're going to figure that out as we get closer to actually the public sell.
Cool. Okay, so enough on ICO, enough on whitelist. I've got a question here. Good question. It says, how can you protect an IoT device when they have such tiny memory and storage? Do you realize that IoT devices measure their storage space and memory in kilobytes, not megabytes or gigabytes?
IoT has been the space that Sentry and now Autonomy have played in for years. Again, we started that business 8 years ago. Sentry is a market leader in IoT data security. We know how to build technology for purpose-built IoT devices, resource-constrained, memory-constrained, battery-constrained. We know how to do that. I'm here to kind of tell you that our endpoint agent for the Autonomy platform will be sub 100K. Developers will be able to take that platform, add it to their hardware, add it to their software, and run in the smallest of constrained devices. This is a space that we've been in for years and years and years, and we're bringing all that expertise kind of through Sentry into Autonomy.
Well, by the way, that's impressive, 100K, because it sounds like a real artisan work there. I remember years ago in the gaming industry, they had to cram their stuff into machine code. You must have some very good developers there?
Well, we do have some assembly in the technology.
Awesome. Good old days.
We learned a lot of our discipline through developing technology for mobile network operators and sitting on the early generation of mobile devices. We've just extended that engineering effort now to the Internet of Things.
Cool. Another question, which is a very good basic question, which is why protect the Internet of Things? Somebody says, I worry about my bank account being hacked, but I don't care about my thermostat or my smart light bulbs.
Right. There's not a single person out there connected to the Internet that hasn't had some form of hack or data breach. There's been a lot of data losses in the past year. I think that's predominantly because of social engineering that allows hackers, bad actors, criminals, basically, to trick us into doing things that we don't want to do. And that's because today our relationship with the Internet is anonymous first. When we take our computer, we log into e-commerce or social, the first thing that happens is an anonymous connection between your computer and the servers that run those systems. And then you provide credentials. In the Internet of Things, we don't have a person that's necessarily connected to that device. So devices really need to be known, trusted at the connection state. And then they do what they're supposed to do. They transmit data, they control industrial systems, they might control autonomous vehicles, drones. There's just so many use cases around IoT. Security's got to be there. And if we don't get security right, if we don't build a platform by which there's strong security, then the Internet of Things is not going to get to its full potential. Because as consumers, we're concerned about that.
And of course, that means IoT, there's like some 8 billion devices already out there, another 20 billion coming online in the next couple of years. Just Wired Magazine, I just saw yesterday, had an article on a major hack that the vector was through an IoT device. I mean,
sure, we're going to see more of that.
There's a huge attack surface out there, isn't there?
Yeah, yeah. For IoT, think about it in its connected devices. These are purpose-built computers. The moment somebody can compromise one, then they might be on the inside of your network. Industrial settings, smart appliances in a consumer. Once somebody is on the inside, then it becomes more disruptive. So what we're trying to do really is make sure that devices, as they interoperate with other devices, that we start with a known trusted state. The ability to guarantee the identity, the reputation, and really establish trust between devices. So that's, we think that's the path forward.
Cool. It's funny, I recall a couple of years ago, a college campus, their whole data center was taken over, and the whole thing, the attack vector was an online vending machine,
right,
plus some smart lights.
Yep.
Anyway,
Yep.
You covered this a little bit when you were talking about the small size required, but somebody's asking, we already have security for our email. Why can't we use the same kind of security for IoT devices?
That's a really good question. So think about email. It sits in an application that runs on a computer, and that computer sits behind layers of security. Most of us think of it in the context of a firewall. So you've got layers of protection and a lot more capability. In the Internet of Things, a lot of those devices are internet-facing. There's not layers of security to protect them. So we really got to move to security in the device, designed in the device at a manufacturing. We really can't add software later. Once devices are in market, they'll be deployed for years, and it's more difficult to add software to a IoT device later. And that's why it's purpose-built software for the Internet of Things.
Okay, and that software, is this embedded into the ROM chips or what?
It can be. At Sentry, we're working with chipset manufacturers to embed the data security technology into devices. At Autonomy, we would work with similar manufacturers. We would work with developers and IoT ecosystem providers to build that technology into the device. Sure, that's the way it should be. Have
Cool.
it there before the device makes it to market.
Here's a very good question, kind of a basic one. And what is the purpose of the token, the Autonomy token. Why is it needed?
Well, we think that a cryptocurrency is really important for the machine economy that's on the horizon, right? This idea that devices will do a lot of the things for us that we take for granted. There'll be more and more of that. Having strong cybersecurity is really, really important, but using a cryptocurrency to link the device to a device owner, making sure that we've got identity in the device, and that a token can be used as part of micropayments, for example, machine-to-machine economy. Not ideal to use standard types of payment, whether it's credit or fiat. So cryptocurrency makes really good sense there. There's a lot of reasons that we think cryptocurrency advances the cybersecurity profile of a device, being able to link those two together to a wallet, to an individual. There's a lot of reasons. We don't want to use or continue to use PII, which is personal information on the device. We don't want to use credit cards for devices, right? Once a credit card is stolen, that creates a whole bunch of havoc. So in a machine economy, in the IoT, cryptocurrency makes a lot of sense to us. And that's one of the fundamental differences.
Cool, cool. And I would imagine also that if you're talking about a machine-to-machine autonomous economy, a lot of these are going to be like sub-dollar, maybe sub-penny amounts.
Right?
Yeah, micro.
We're going to move away in many ways from post-pay kinds of services, your utility bills and bandwidth. Not now and not next year, but on the horizon, we can all see this coming to pay-as-you-go. And that makes more sense. You can buy bandwidth, you can buy services as you need, and a machine economy is going to do that for us. And using cryptocurrency, again, it facilitates those transactions better than current credit cards, for example.
Cool. And here's a question which a lot of people are asking, not just about autonomy, but in general, and that is Ethereum and the scaling of Ethereum,
Sure.
the ability for them to transact the simultaneous transactions and at an affordable rate.
Yep.
What's happening there? Right now, Autonomy is being built upon Ethereum.
We are. We embrace the Ethereum community. We think that there's a significant amount of effort around the community to build solutions that address scale and transaction velocity. We're betting on the Ethereum community to solve that. That's not what Autonomy is about, but we certainly benefit from projects that are trying to solve that. As part of our platform, we're starting with identity and reputation. Those are metadata that's posted to the Ethereum blockchain, and from that, our network can validate the identity and the reputation of peer devices. So we don't need consensus to enable the transaction. Devices in a marketplace can discover other devices on blockchain, validate the identity, determine reputation, and then decide whether that makes sense for a transaction. So other projects are relying on Ethereum consensus to just do transactions. We're not. So we've taken a very different approach. And we'll continue to stay close to some of the projects. There's a lot of them. We all know about that. And we'll evolve our platform as those projects deal with things like transaction scale and velocity.
Cool. Yeah, because that's a need that the entire...
We all need that problem solved. We're all working towards it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. At Autonomy, our contribution is to build the security protocol for the next generation devices.
We've got a question here on interoperability. Your white paper talks about interoperability of your protocol. Could you please explain more about how interoperability will be used?
Sure. So today, think about manufacturers of devices, whether it's in a consumer setting, it's an industrial setting. These are devices that are basically operating in silos. So manufacturer of device A in the same ecosystem as a manufacturer of device B, they don't necessarily interoperate very well. They can't establish identity. They can't necessarily establish trust. Autonomy is going to bridge those multi-vendor environments like smart cities, in healthcare, in consumer. So interoperability is really allowing vendors to identify, establish trust, share data. Data could be just information, but data can also be transactions, command and control scenarios. So we think this is an important step into getting to the full potential of IoT.
Cool.
Not silos of IoT, but really a fully integrated full potential.
So you'll have like an SDK or something for these people to work with?
Yeah, that's what we're releasing on May 15 is an embedded device SDK in our GitHub. We'll allow developers to take that stack, add it to theirs, register devices, validate devices, and in marketplaces that are yet to be developed, they'll be able to discover devices in that marketplace and then move on to transactions. So we're really going to enable a broader interoperability for IoT.
And another ICO-related question here. Someone wants to know about the purpose of the private sale and how it differs from a token generation event.
Sure, lots of questions around that. Well, a private sale, Autonomy chose to use a mechanism called SAFT, Simple Agreement for Future Token, and that constitutes an agreement for a purchase of tokens at a future state. We're using that investment, if you will, to help fund the further development of the platform. Once the platform is at full function, as we've defined in the white paper, then we'll move into kind of that next stage of selling the tokens to as broad a public community as possible, because that's really the goal here, to make sure that early adopters, developers, IoT solution providers, and ultimately the owners or the consumers of devices being able to use the Autonomy network, use the Autonomy tokens to make sure that we get to another level of cybersecurity. That's really our goal, is to really enable cybersecurity to take that next step towards a known trusted device. And the tokens are essential. We want those in the hands of as many users as possible, and we can get there through a public sale.
Okay. Earlier you were talking about the small size of IoT devices.
Yeah.
Someone's saying, why don't we just make devices with more memory and storage? Components are getting cheaper.
Yeah, that's true. Moore's law says that computer capabilities double every year, right? That goes way back to the early days of Intel, and that is true, that they are getting more capable, but they're also, they're taking on more tasks. The cost of an IoT device at the number of devices that we're talking about are in billions. Every fraction of a cent matters. I work with device manufacturers, I work with ecosystem providers, have for years, and I know that every cent matters. So what we're trying to do is make sure we can fit on the smallest common denominator of IoT. And if we do that, then then security can be on every device.
Cool. And I'd imagine there's another element in there, which is power consumption, because these devices have to hang on a power pole or somewhere for maybe 2-3 years or more without anyone looking at them. And I would guess the more RAM and the more storage you put on the device, and the stronger the CPU, the more battery draw you're going to pull?
Totally. Well, in that example, if it's a device on a power pole, it probably has access to power. But,
oh, very good.
but a device that is on a battery, yeah, all of this matters. The clock speed, the amount of processor, how we're efficient at bandwidth, how often does the device connect in and validate itself against the network. All of that matters. So the goal is to be as efficient as possible when it comes to IoT, because there is no extra memory, there is no extra processor. These are purpose-built for one thing and one thing only.
And someone's asking, what is the difference between Autonomy and Iota?
Well, Iota is a blockless protocol for a connected world. We're certainly familiar with Iota and many other protocols. We're certainly compatible with Iota. They're in the IoT space as we are. We're bringing a security protocol to the Internet of Things. Iota is bringing a different approach. We're also, big advocates of the Ethereum community and what that represents. We're not competing with any of these. We're actually enabling them to do more, and I think that's really our goal. Sentry has been in the cybersecurity space for a while. I've been in this space for a long time and saw the opportunity for us to bring something new to the market, make sure that cybersecurity is a fundamental protocol for the next generation of devices. And that's what we're doing.
Cool. By the way, I just received another question here. Someone has got the very interesting question, which is if every IoT device requires a token, won't we run out of Autonomy tokens? So what happens there?
Well, that's true. In a case where there are a lot of devices, and we've got an interesting dynamic here in the Internet of Things, because the more devices that connect, the more devices need security and the payment and registration and activation of that using tokens. Well, the beauty of a token is you can just move the decimal point to the left, and it's a fraction of a token as the network grows and matures. We're not issuing more tokens. I think everybody that's following the company, they know what's coming in our token generation event. We're going to sell 500 million tokens, and that's it. We don't plan on releasing any more. And then as the demand for the network grows, as we get more IoT devices connected, as we get more IoT ecosystems, I'll just describe them in a broad context, then the number of tokens continue to float, the velocity and the movement of tokens increase, but we just move the decimal point, and that's it. It's a fraction of a token at some point.
Oh, very good, very good. And here's a question that kind of cuts to the car chase. I think you might have hit this. When can we expect to see code available on GitHub? You mentioned the code was coming there.
Yep.
Have you got a posting date, or is that you don't want to commit to that? Or
well, we're on track for May 15th, so that's our target. The team has been working on that target for a very long time. It's been part of the plans when we began the project of Autonomy, just about a year ago. We decided to spin this out of Sentry and build this platform with a lot of the core technology that Sentry's already been working on for years. So we've got a technical lead in the marketplace, and our plan is May 15th. So you'll see a GitHub post on that day. We'll see all the smart contracts. We'll see the entire network kind of come to life on that day, and that's our plan. It's hard to really kind of know for sure. It might be the day before, it might be the day after, but our plan is May 15th.
Cool. And here's an easy one. How can I sign up to get more information to follow the whole project?
Yeah, I would encourage people to stay as close to the company as possible through our Telegram channel. That's where we're going to announce things first. That's where we're going to take all the questions and kind of address all of that through that Telegram channel. For our newsletter, come to autonomy.io. Sign up for the news. That'll keep you in the loop on that. Certainly there's other social media outlets like Twitter, Facebook, but I think Telegram is where we're really focusing the message first.
Okay, cool. And this is a good question here. How can a blockchain be used for identity? How's Autonomy going to use blockchain technology to validate identity?
Sure. Blockchain is an immutable ledger, a decentralized ledger. And if we take advantage of what that represents, we can take a hardware ID, and this is the hardware manufacturer would decide what constitutes a unique ID, but we would rely on that, not MAC address, not IP address. These are things that change, but an ID that can be rooted to blockchain and become immutable. Then that stays with the device through its full life cycle. It begins with a registration event by a manufacturer, and then that event follows with an activation. Somebody that's taken possession, they've onboarded or provisioned the device, and then it's activated. It's linked to them, it's linked to their identity, and it's linked to their wallet. So we're using blockchain to make sure that every device is unique, just like your thumbprint. Your fingerprints are unique. Think of that in the same context. But blockchain allows us to do that. We've never been able to before. Right? Before we had individual cybersecurity providers in antivirus or in other forms of cybersecurity. None of them agreed necessarily, but in blockchain we can agree on what is true identity through consensus and a broad distribution of stakeholders that have a vested interest in making sure the Internet of Things is secure. So.
And in this mix with from the manufacturer giving you an identity to track, are you using cryptocurrency, crypto keys or anything?
We do have a public-private key exchange, and that's provided through the device, the software stack, and the manufacturer gets to decide on kind of all of those elements, and we'll absorb however the device is configured, how it operates inside the marketplace, and we'll use that unique ID for its ID on blockchain.
Cool. So a device comes in. You will have already had the public key. It says, here's my private key, match it. And so you can see it matches with the ID. And then you write that to the blockchain, and that is?
That's it. That's the ID. And the reason why we do this is to make sure that devices don't get in the wrong hands or hacked before they get into the marketplace. We want to make sure that we're going to trust the manufacturers that have qualified for participating in the network, and then from there we'll establish identity.
And then once it's on the blockchain, one device could validate the identity of another? Or?
Yeah, within a marketplace you would see devices discover each other, and the marketplaces will decide that protocol layer. From that standpoint, they can take the identity, validate that that identity is true. They can look at the reputation of the device, make sure that that's the right kind of reputation. And I use the term reputation loosely. It's not just binary, trust, not trust. It's a multi-dimension reputation that we're going to use, and that creates a lot of complexity in how devices can decide what's the right reputation for transactions. Yeah.
So I can see where you could have some machine learning involved there, and if a device has a long history of doing this, and this, and all of a sudden wants to go out in right field and connect with a Swiss bank account.
Or be malicious somehow.
Yeah.
Its historic pattern is on blockchain. We'll be able to detect that. We'll see what's normal, what's baseline. If the device has been compromised or it's behaving different than other devices, we can use that intelligence and the machine learning to take action. Right? These are devices in the field that might not be easily removed. They might be deployed in such a way that they can't be disabled. But if we can detect that they've been hacked, we can certainly degrade the reputation and eventually, at kind of the right parameters, disable the device from disrupting other devices.
Cool. So you're kind of really bringing kind of blockchain consensus methodology to that monitoring of reputation.
Absolutely. Yep.
Someone's asking, will Autonomy ever need the mainnet or Masternodes?
So our architecture is based on consensus by trusted members of the network. So we'll vet, we'll qualify device manufacturers and ecosystem providers to participate in that consensus process. So those become the nodes that'll do consensus. We also have a method by which third parties can audit the behavior of devices, and we view those as different than the manufacturers to make sure that there's the right level of consensus across both onboarding devices and recognizing devices, as well as validating transactions and establishing reputation score and adjusting the scores as necessary.
Cool, cool. And this is a very interesting question. Has to do with the roller coaster ride that Bitcoin and Ethereum have been on.
Very volatile. Cryptocurrency has been very volatile, that's sure.
Question is, how will you deal with the fall in ETH value? I haven't looked at CoinCap market today, but it looked like it was coming up yesterday. To make it fair for everybody, I know private pre-sale people who have invested when ETH was almost 4 times higher than in US dollars than it is now. And the second part of the question is, will you peg your tokens to ETH value or USD? I think early investors and believers should be a priority. So process that.
Yeah, lots of questions there. So let me kind of address that issue. We're going to establish the price of ETH at the time of the public sale. That will determine the number of tokens per ETH, and we think it's the fairest way to go. The volatility in the market has created a lot of uncertainty. ETH could fall or it could rise. We think that the fairest way is to set it when the public sale begins, and that's our plan. Okay. That was our plan from the beginning. It's been communicated kind of through our deal docs, and we're going to stick with that. Our target has been to raise $25 million through this token generation event, offering 500 million tokens as part of that, and that's been the plan.
Very good. And we've got a question here. Is the Autonomy ICO going to be hosted on Vaughan chain? And apparently that's a universal cross-chain protocol with a distributed ledger. Yeah,
there's a few projects that create blockchain interoperability. I'm familiar with a few of them. I think the answer is a TBD. As far as the interoperability, that's our mission at Autonomy, is enable that interoperability based on identity reputation and security of the protocol. So taking it kind of to a Vaughan chain or others, that's a TBD.
Okay, yeah, that's fair, that's fair. And someone must have read the white paper or the website or something.
I
They're
sure hope
asking
so.
about, I hope so.
A lot of effort went into
I'm
into
sure,
that
I'm sure, I'm
document,
sure.
for sure.
Yeah, those white papers are kind of foundational. Someone's asking about Sentry and what's your growth strategy? How will you leverage Sentry's technology place in the industry to scale Autonomy's user base?
Yeah, so these are two independent businesses on the same thread of IoT security. Sentry provides an industry-leading data security platform that's embedded in devices by large contract manufacturers, chipset manufacturers, cloud service providers, so that technology is in market and making its way to market. Autonomy is on a different path, right? We're trying to solve a different problem at creating identity and reputation. There is a common customer base, for sure, and we're going to leverage that. We think that makes a lot of sense. But they're two businesses. The Autonomy token has no use in the Sentry business model, so we're not trying to cross-pollinate those. Mm-hmm. They're different strategies. But it's all on the same thread of how do we create a more secure Internet of Things, enable full potential, and we think that these two companies can do that.
Very good. And another ICO question, and that is, what will be the value of the token? What will the token value be on day of ICO?
Right. Well, the math is 25 million in token sales, 500 million tokens, factoring in, not factoring in other elements, we're at about 5 cents.
Okay.
We'll make that decision kind of at the time of the public sale, but just the math pencils out about 5 cents.
Okay, and boy, if this were a drinking game, for every ICO question, we would be drinking
top
a
of
lot
mind
of coffee here.
for folks. But really, the important aspect here is we're building a platform that can fundamentally change the trajectory of cybersecurity. Just imagine a world where all computers are known, trusted, and the ability for us to kind of significantly reduce the amount of malware, social engineered hacks. Really, the mission here is build the platform that changes the trajectory of cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And Internet of Things is greenfield. If we can't get it right there, then I think we're just never going to get to the full potential of IoT. So I understand why the questions, but I just want to remind everybody we're building a network to solve a real problem.
Yeah. The reason I was joking about ICO question is, will there be an airdrop with the ICO?
No.
That's a question.
I don't think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
There's a lot of discussion around that. I know other companies that have gone through the same process have gone down that route. I don't think that's the route for us. Autonomy and the ATMI token is in fact a utility. There's no question about the utility value of that token. We want to get it in the hands of as many early adopters, as many developers, as many users as absolutely possible. And we're going to do that through a token generation event at some point in the future.
Okay. Near future, I'm assuming?
Near future. Stay close, but yeah, near future.
Okay. And someone is asking some use case scenarios. Question is, can anyone explain in simple words, how are we going to use autonomy tokens in real life? And the second part is, most IoT projects have their own tokens, so why do we need an ERC20 token like Autonomy?
Right.
The Atonomy token.
Let me give maybe one, maybe two use cases on how this platform can be used. We'll just use a consumer use case to start with, and most of us have some form of smart devices in our homes. These devices are probably using Wi-Fi or maybe some other protocol, but Wi-Fi is really not that secure. It's pretty easy to beam a signal on top of a consumer Wi-Fi and then capture the ID and capture the password. In a future state where the Autonomy network exists and where the identity of those next generation smart devices can be known for certainty, you can link those devices to your network. So instead of devices just joining your network through a compromise of the Wi-Fi signal, now we can take devices, known, trusted identity, and those become yours. So a good example is we can make the smart home more secure. In an industrial setting, you might have multi-vendor devices in that environment. This allows the industrial manufacturing floor to be able to accommodate devices from other manufacturers, all working together towards some common system, and that's a perfect application of IoT, industrial IoT, and how autonomy allows devices across manufacturers to be able to work within a system. So those are just two of countless examples of how IoT and security can be applied.
Cool. And boy, that is really essential. I've read scenarios where through a baby monitor, someone could go in and tap into your home banking.
We've all read that, yeah. It's single point of attack. Somebody can enter the network and then from there move on to personal computers and other devices on that network in a consumer play. Yep. We really need to change kind of our thinking and the trajectory around cybersecurity.
And of course, the same, you mentioned industrial IoT, the same is even more drastically important there.
Yeah, we can assume that there's no longer a trusted zone kind of on the inside of a network and a non-trusted zone kind of outside of the network. I think really the prevailing thought now is zero trust, and systems now need to kind of move into that process.
Interesting. Yeah. A question here is, do you have a roadmap, and how far along are you with developing the product?
Yes, we do have a roadmap. We work from a product requirement position. Every day engineering is working on that. We're not publishing the roadmap. What we're doing is we're publishing the white paper. We're going to release the platform that conforms to the white paper, and then we'll take that next step. Okay. And we'll see. Right? Really, we want to invite the open source community to come in, help us with developing this at the next level. Things like the reputation algorithms. That's something we're going to invite the open source community to come into. So we'll have to figure out what the next step looks like. And we're building a network by which so many other systems and ecosystems can take advantage of.
Cool. Speaking of ecosystems, someone is just asking, in the future, are you planning on building your own blockchain?
That has been discussed. I think that's a downrange discussion. Again, I'm betting that the Ethereum community, there's enough smart people around the Ethereum community to solve some of these issues, and I've been tracking a bunch of these projects. I'm a big fan of projects like Plasma, as you know.
Yeah.
I think that they have a good shot at dealing with scale and transaction velocity. Having said that, if it becomes necessary for Autonomy to build its own blockchain, yeah, we would not, we wouldn't take that off the table. We would leave that as an option for us, for sure.
Cool. And someone's asking, do you have a demo or an MVP yet?
We've had MVP for months. On mainnet, Autonomy has been very active on mainnet, so we've been demonstrating this as an MVP, a proof of concept. Certainly we've been working on that. We're inside of essentially a month of launching the platform. So absolutely, we have a product, and come May 15, we'll publish the code to GitHub and invite IoT developers, early adopters, to use this platform and build more secure IoT devices.
Okay, got another question. From all I read in the white paper, I catch the opinion that Autonomy can make almost any operation connected with the IoT secure. But I don't see user cases for useful implementation for the security. Please elaborate on the general use case. So, another question is asking for use cases for smart cities. So we've been kind of talking about the technology and the ICO. Yeah. Could you go into some use cases?
Yes, so smart city is another one. So we've got three. We've got the consumer, we've got industrial, and now a smart city. But we'll just pick like one function within a smart city. Okay. Maybe traffic lights. So today, traffic lights are essentially static. In the future, traffic lights can be adjusted based on all kinds of input sources, right? The flow of traffic, the number of cars behind the light, all of that can be adjusted. having those street lights connected is really important, but you don't want anybody to be able to hack those lights. So we've got to be able to create a layer of security. Again, we think that identity starts with security, so that's an example by which you can take something that we take for granted, traffic lights, and we can make them smarter by allowing them to be adjusted based on the flow of traffic. So it's another use case in a smart city. Smart city is fabulous. There's just so many things that can be done inside of a smart city, from first responders to services to just you name it. It's a fantastic set of use cases for the Internet of Things.
Yeah, I think I read of one instance where they were talking about using smart city IoT devices to reduce air pollution by, I think finding vehicles that were with geo mapping.
Idling,
you
yeah.
can say
Trucks are idling too long.
Yeah,
right?
if this truck is at a delivery place,
Yeah.
turn the damn engine off. Turn the darn engine off. And but tell me about that. I mean, potentially, it's a lot like a science fiction.
Well, smart city. I think that label describes it. That so many things that we take for granted, static, are going to become active, and things that that we can't even think about today, in not too distant future, will become reality because IoT devices, purpose-built, cheap, connected, creative ecosystems will enable things that again we're just not thinking of today.
Yeah. And of course, all of that, it's got to be secured, because when you, it's like good news, bad news. It seems like every
That's
time
right.
there's
Yeah, good news, bad news, sure.
Yeah, every time I in my book Tomorrow Makers, when I wrote about nanotechnology, well, nanotechnology is awesome. You can have little bars going through your cells correcting cancerous proteins. On the other hand, they can be horrible, invisible weapons.
Yep.
So,
well, at the scale of IoT, there's so many devices, and we have to kind of assume that if one device is compromised, then it's doing something disruptive. So we'll never get to zero risk, for sure. We understand that, but really making sure that the industry, the cybersecurity industry, and the IoT industry kind of converge, because that's our collective responsibility to make sure those systems, whether it's healthcare, smart cities, are more resilient to cyber threat than maybe what we've grown accustomed to in computers and networks. Mm-hmm. There's the data breach of the day, I guess, that still exists.
Okay, and a related question is, someone read about a switch autonomy, switch SWYTCH, autonomy joint project. Yeah. Switch is they're they want to create a marketplace for solar power and other alternative energies.
Switch is one of our early partners. They're interested in alternative energy at a macro level. It's a fascinating company. They're bringing intelligence to alternative energy. They're using blockchain technology, and they've partnered with Autonomy so that the sensors and the source of power can be known, trusted. So as that power moves from an endpoint solar array, for example, that the source of that power is known, trusted, it becomes revenue generating entity in order to feed the power grid. So yeah, fantastic project, early partner of Autonomy, and there's more partners that we're working with on the horizon that we'll be able to talk to at some point.
It sounds like a cool idea, kind of creating their own network of all of these solar panels that
alternative energy. It's something that's important to us.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if you've got a worldwide network of all of these devices claiming that I created this much solar power, please pay me, I guess that really needs protection.
Identity, right? Yep.
Identity goes back to identity.
It goes to identity. Start there, yeah.
And I suppose reputation would work there also.
That's right. Yeah, buying and selling of, in this case, it's buying and selling of power. Yep, absolutely.
Okay, well, we're just about out of time, and I'm wondering, this must be an exciting time for you. It's like, what's it like? Do you feel like you're getting ready to come up for air, or are you still head down? Or
this is really hard work. The regulatory climate is unclear. The engineering feat to launch a platform like this is difficult. The team is energized. This is a fantastic time for us. We're working on something very, very meaningful, and we're excited to be able to bring that to market. Based on years of experience. Again, I've been in cybersecurity way before starting Century, so we're excited about the contribution of Autonomy to the broader market.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I've greatly enjoyed the conversation.
Me too. Me too. It's been wonderful.
Exciting days we're living in, and good luck with that, because the IoT, the Internet of Things, must be secured.
Thanks, Grant. Thank you all for watching. This is the first of hopefully many AMA in these kinds of formats. We do regular conference calls with our communities. We're active on Telegram. We're trying to be out there and be available. So thanks so much for watching.